Oh man, I'm sorry. I was gonna hook this up. Close your eyes. I'll tell you when you can look. I was gonna hook this up before I started the video. Oh, okay. There you go. You guys can see pretty good. Hey, welcome. I'm Jamie Mayfield. I'm just now casting on, and I'm giving you a new view today. So you are sitting, this is the 6 o'clock position. This is my left half mark and my right half mark, just so you're orientated with your view. So thanks for joining me today. What we're going to talk about, I have to tell you, my friend Jan taught me this little trick. And when I said, hey, is it okay if I share that thing you showed me how to do the last time I saw you about doing your gauge swatching? She's like, sure, but what I do? So, if you're watching, Jan, this is what you showed me. So okay, let's start at the very beginning here. Anytime you knit with a new yarn, you need to do a sample, a gauge swatch, right? Who wants to do that? That would be a great big thumbs down. Nobody wants to do their gauge swatching. There you go. Now you can see a little bit better. So, if you have a slotted yarn carrier like I do on this Laguerre, this one came from Dave Lord at chambordcsm.com. He did not pay me to advertise this for him, but for this simple action, you are going to need to have a slotted yarn carrier. So, I do have this slotted yarn carrier on this old Laguerre that was gifted to me, which has been one of the greatest gifts I've ever received on this whole entire planet. Alright, so now we're going to change over to project yarn. Anytime you want to know how your sock's going to knit up, you've got to knit a gauge swatch. Okay? Now, every yarn has a little bit different attributes. And you can get it to where it's darn close. You can take notes to where you can know if that's going to work for you or not. Let's see. Let me grab this yarn. This is what I'm wearing today. Yes, this came from CSM Supplies. I believe it's color fuchsia. It's a striped yarn, obviously. So let's grab this and take a look at what our tension would be like. Now, I am in the Team Heel Spring On category, okay? So I knit with my heel spring engaged. Okay? So when I take off knitting, you're going to notice that that tension looks pretty darn too big. Okay? Now, anytime you want to set your tension for a new yarn, you need to do so with all of the needles in the machine. Even if you're making a mock rib sock. If you are making a mock rib sock, do not change the tension. When you knit the mock rib, the tension's going to look hideous. But the beauty of a mock rib sock does not show until after you wash it. Maybe I'll just say that again. If you're making a mock rib sock, you still need to adjust your tension for the yarn with all the needles in work. Okay? So, when you remove your needles, your tension is going to look hideous on a mock rib. The beauty of a mock rib sock does not shine through until you wash the sock. Okay? So, you've got all your needles into the cylinder, and since I am Team Heel Spring On, I am going to engage my heel spring. Another little tidbit I picked up from David Lord was the fancy heel spring that also has slots, and we'll crank forward. Okay, now this tension is looking pretty good. It is on the verge of being just a hair too tight. Now, let me say this about that. If you're setting the tension on your yarn, okay, you want to be sure that all the needles are in and be sure that your yarn is wound into a proper cone. Okay? The yarn has to twirl into the yarn guide freely. If it gets caught underneath the bottom side of the cone, that is going to change your tension. Okay? If I put my hand right here and I'm cranking along, which would be kind of silly because then I'd be cranking left-handed, and I just don't even hold any drag on this yarn, that's still going to change your tension. Okay? Now, the name of the game is to get your yarn wound evenly so that you will make a sock that has a mate with the same number of rows that actually fits and matches. Now, here's a cone of yarn that Miss Jenny Dieters dyed for me. Okay, it is wound onto a cone. I did this by hand. Okay, it's by far not perfect. Might even have a little bit of yarn barf going on that I'll have to be careful with. But it's still, that would be a fine cone to knit from because the yarn's not going to get caught on anything. All right. Now, obviously, this one's a beautifully wound cone because it was wound on an electric cone winder. Okay, so let's say my tension is just on the verge of being too tight. And the reason I know that it's on the verge of being too tight is because it's slow to seat. The stitches are slower to seat when I'm cranking forward. So I'm going to adjust my tension just a little bit looser. Sorry about that. I went tighter at the first. Alright, now look at, immediately those stitches are seated. That's what I'm looking for in proper tension. Okay? But I sure don't want to waste, let's say I bought a $32 ball of yarn from an indie dyer. I don't want to waste any of that. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to flip it out of the yarn carrier. Flip it out of this thing. Okay? I'm going to drop this off of the machine. I'm going to let it go, weight and all. And I'm just going to wind this bad boy. Actually, I think I'll take it out of the heel spring. And I can also take it out of the yarn carrier. I'm just going to wind this yarn back up. And that way, I haven't lost any yarn whatsoever. Well, that's today's money-saving tip from Jamie Mayfield right here on CSMSupplies.com. And I have to thank Jane Dwyer for this wonderful tip and trick that we can all put to good use. Thanks for joining me. I should make you watch till I'm finished yarning, shouldn't I? Or you can push stop video. It's okay. It doesn't bother me at all. Thanks for taking a minute out of your day to join me on this great, fun CSM adventure. Ta-da! There you go. And I didn't lose a bit of yarn. How about that? You have to always remember, there's the X. And